Hi, my name is Danielle, and I have a lifelong passion for cooking. I'm a wife, a mother of 4, and a strong advocate for a vegan, plant-based, organic lifestyle. Over the last 10 years, I've been honing in my vegan, plant-based skills, and I'm here to bring them to you in my Plant Beach Family Kitchen. Hi, and welcome to our cauliflower riced fried rice episode. Now, one of the things that is amazing about this recipe is there is no rice in it at all. It is completely full of vegetables. So if you're somebody like myself who likes to eat big portions, this is the recipe for you. Okay. All right, to start our cauliflower fried rice, of course you want to turn the heat on your pan, and I have my trusty cast iron skillet here. And first I'm going to start off with a little bit of my coconut olive oil blend. And I keep this in my kitchen at all times because I love that it doesn't have that overwhelmingly strong taste of coconut oil, but it has all the health properties that coconut oil allows you to have when cooking. Because when you're cooking at high temperatures, some of the structure of the olive oil breaks down and the health benefits of it break down, whereas if you put the coconut oil and the olive oil together, it allows the heating temperature of the olive oil to raise so the nutrients can stay intact. So again, I do 3/4 a cup of coconut oil to 1/4 of olive oil, and I just keep this right on my counter. Next in here, what you want to do is you want to place your mushrooms and your onions, and this isn't really a recipe in the sense that I'm writing down and telling you everything to put in here. It's a recipe in the sense of it's a template, it's a guideline, and you can put whatever vegetables that you want in here. If you don't like mushrooms, leave them out. If you love cabbage or whatever, you can add that in. So this is just a process. It's a method, a technique to teach you how to make this, and you can substitute whatever you like. So in here, I've got the onions and I've got the mushrooms, and I'm just gonna let them cook down a little bit because I want to get some color on the onions, and all these other vegetables are going to cook up really fast. I want to get some color on these mushrooms. So I just kind of leave them there and let them do their thing. And you'll notice I'm not salting this right away for 2 reasons. One, I don't want to pull all the moisture out of the mushrooms. And 2, I'm going to be using tamari or coconut aminos later in the recipe, so I don't want it to be over salted. So right now, we're just going to let that cook, and I'm going to teach you how to make cauliflowered rice. So we have large cauliflower here, maybe like 1 medium to large head, and I really encourage you to do this in stages. So you want to put the cauliflower in the food processor. You want to kind of break it up, and you do want to do this in segments, because if you put the whole head of cauliflower in here, what's going to happen is the blade is going to be turning at the bottom, and it's going to be turning it into mush. So you want to kind of do it in a few different segments. So you want to put your cauliflower in the blender, and cauliflower is extremely healthy for you, and it's one of those vegetables that everybody needs in their diet. So right here, this is about as much as I like to put in there. And then you just turn your food processor on. And there you have it, riced cauliflower. And I'm going to add this into the bowl that I have here already. And this is going to act as your rice, just as if you were making any fried rice recipe. And I hear my pan talking to me behind me, so we'll go over here and finish cooking. So right now we're going to just give it a little stir, and I can see that my mushrooms are starting to brown. So to this, I'm going to go ahead and add some of my other vegetables. So in here I've got Brussels sprouts, carrots, I've got celery, and I've got zucchini. And again, this is going to go pretty quickly. I don't want to cook out my vegetables to death because I want to have some texture left of them. I want to have some nutrients remain in there, so I don't want to cook them to death. I just want to give them a nice little toss. And this would be where you would think about adding your seasonings. So I'm going to do a little bit of salt on top here. And then I'm going to add my ginger and garlic. And I have about 2 cloves of garlic minced and about 2 to 3 inch knob of ginger. Of course, if that's a little spicy and you're feeding it to maybe a bunch of kids that aren't used to ginger, you probably want to back off the ginger a little bit. So I will go ahead and add that to this pan. And there are so many health benefits to ginger. It is full of antioxidants. It helps with inflammation. It cures all kinds of forms of nauseousness. So if you're pregnant, ginger is great to have in your diet. It also is said to improve brain function, brain health. So we're going to mix that, and once that gets cooking, I like to add a little bit of Chinese 5-spice powder. And if you don't have this at home, you can leave it out. It's not a be-all or end-all ingredient in the recipe, but it definitely adds a different depth to it. And what's in Chinese 5-spice powder is anise, aniseed, black pepper, fennel seed, cinnamon, and cloves. So I just like to add that in there, about a teaspoon or 2, and give that a nice little mix amongst the vegetables. And once everything looks coated, this is the time you would want to add your riced cauliflower. And then thoroughly toss, mix all the ingredients so they're become one. And once the steam is cooking, it'll cook the cauliflower, but it'll still remain, the texture will still remain intact. So it really, truly does give it a rice texture. And then I like to add some frozen peas that I just thawed out before I put in here. And this is a key ingredient too, is the sesame oil. This is toasted sesame oil. Some purists would actually just use sesame oil because maybe if it's toasted, they're saying there might be some repercussions to the nutrient benefits to the oil. But it just lends a flavor that's irreplaceable. So I definitely use the toasted sesame oil in here. But the point that I'm making is there's options. You know, do what's good for you and your family. Do what you like in the dish. Okay, so here the next thing I have is cilantro and kale. And I like to put this in at the very end along with the red peppers because I like to keep them in a raw state. So I like to add that right at the very end, but right now I'm going to add some, this is sesame seeds, both black and white. And I love sesame seeds. I use them in all kinds of forms in my kitchen, in butter. I use them in seeds. And a little tip for you is, see these black sesame seeds? Some people even will take a couple tablespoons, put the black seeds in their mouth, the sesame seeds, and they chew them, and it almost becomes a buffer or a whitener for your teeth. And we've all done it in this house. And no, it's not a pleasant feeling in your mouth, but it really does buff your teeth and make them nice and white. So that's the black sesame seeds. And not to mention, sesame seeds contain a huge amount of calcium. And I just like to put that in there. And then on top of that, this is my coconut aminos. You can use tamari here. And that's, you know, a good amount in there, anywhere from 4 tablespoons and maybe even a little bit more if you like it extra salty. And then I just add the greens because I like to always have a health benefit, or I always like to bump up the rawness or the greens in every dish that I make. And cilantro is incredibly healthy for you. Cilantro is, and actually what they say is if you eat a lot of cilantro, it will detoxify any heavy metals, mercury that you have in your body, and it actually just excretes it out through your urine. So whenever you get a chance, cilantro will help combat any of the toxins that are out in the environment. If you have mercury fillings, cilantro is a definite important part of a plant-based diet. And for those of you who don't like cilantro, because there's actually a genetic coding, if you meet people who say they don't like cilantro, it's not their fault. They have a genetic coding that when they eat it, it tastes like soap. So if you're one of those people, just put parsley in here and that'll be fine, or a little extra kale. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna plate this. So this is cauliflower riced, fried rice. And of course, no meal is complete without the tasting. You want to taste it and see whether you need to add any seasonings. The flavor is high in ginger. I can taste all the warm spices in there, the clove and the cinnamon. I do think it needs a little extra tamari, so I'm going to put just a touch of that back in here. And that's the key to cooking. You taste it, you find out what does it need. And if you wanted to keep this completely soy-free, again, add the coconut aminos instead. And there you have it, cauliflower riced fried rice. It's easy enough to make. You can eat a ton of it and not feel guilty. And once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.